so I want to talk a little bit, just on this subject a little bit about, there's direct action of like, say like the neo-fascist, neo-Nazi, like any racist person, bigoted person, just like straight up opposing them, like it sounds like what you do. Now, you were very prominently featured in another documentary called Erasing Hate, which focuses on, his name is Byron Widner. He leaves a neo-Nazi, I think it's like the Hammerskins.
Brian Widener, he was in the Villain of the Social Club.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's like a skinhead. That's a straight up like skinhead.
Well, that's a neo-Nazi. We don't call them skinheads. But we call them boneheads. So.
Yeah. Because skinheads, was appropriate.
Yeah, that's one of those cultural appropriation things that they got themselves involved in. But
exactly.
Yeah, he was a big time enforcer in the Villain of the Social Club, former Hammerskin Nation. He was there for about a decade or so, and then he grew up.
Yeah.
And he had a series of tattoos on his face and hands and body. And his penance was to try to get them removed so he can go on with his life.
Yeah, and it's a good documentary. I recommend you check it out. So,
and I would note, incidentally, that movie that documentary has been turned into a motion picture.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so can you talk about that?
Yes, I can. It's still in production, and I'm still in post-production, rather. It's currently called Skin, and it features Jamie Bell, Billy Elliot, as Brian Widener, Mike Coulter, Luke Cage, as me, and Vera Farmiga's in it. We know her from The Departed and Bates Motel, and
she plays wife.
She plays the wife of the leader of the hate group. Danielle McDonald, an up-and-coming actress who we've probably seen in the movie Patty Cakes. From Australia.
Oh,
she's
awesome.
She's playing Julie, Brian Widener's wife or girlfriend in the movie, love interest.
Yeah.
And there's a few other recognizable faces, but yeah, this I've seen rough cuts and it looks pretty good, and I hope people were able to watch it and enjoy it.
So, do you think that is it worth, like, those of us who are not Nazis, is it worth doing, like, putting effort into rescuing Nazis?
Yes, but it's kind of like I'm my father's son, and my father was a drug counselor, and it's a matter of, for me, as it was with him, that they have to come to the realization that they need to change, and they have to come to you. It's good to keep the door open, and we do have an open door for things like that,
right?
And we will talk to you. But in regards to us reaching out and as that being our primary mission in life to help change Nazis, no, you either going to get out of it, or we got to treat you hostile.
So, and I'll bring up another documentary that I saw recently. It involves another Daryle. It's called Accidental Curiosity. It focuses on a man named Daryle Davis. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
So in this documentary, Daryle Davis makes a point of meeting Klan members, like current Ku Klux Klan members, and just so like that they can meet a black guy. That's his motivation of like, well, that's the problem is that like they never met like a black person. That's like his origin story. You look at the trailer online. And so his sort of like that's his thing, and like I guess he's gotten some Klan members to retire. Now, there's a section in the movie that he meets with some Black Lives Matter activists, and they kind of come at him a little bit.
Yeah,
and he's a little condescending to them, and so I'm just sort of like, I guess like for me, like I watched that documentary and I had so many mixed feelings of like, all right, we know that we're all human beings. Nobody's like a monster. Like these are all human beings who were born in this country and they came to this situation in their lives through just a concrete lived experience. But there's just that part of me that like is why I guess like, yeah, maybe you nailed it. Like maybe it's like if they come to that sort of come to Jesus moment and they have this realization of like, they want to leave. That's great. Like the Life After Hate guy, Christian.
Right, Christian Piccolini.
Like that sounds like he's doing amazing
work. And Arna
work.
Michaelis.
Yeah.
From Serve to United, and one of the founders of Life After Hate.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. And I guess to me, it's like, it kind of pisses. It's sort of frustrating because it's like I don't know that I don't want to direct energy towards saving anyone anymore. Like,
well, see, what the deal is, look, Daryle Davis, I don't have any issues with. I mean, however if you can get anybody out of that kind of nonsense, please do, by all means. If that's what you want to do directly, if that's your mission in life, okay, fine. I mean, I'm not mad at you.
Yeah.
But what I will stress is that think about all the damage that person has done to someone else.
That's the thing, yeah. And so like
they have a lot to atone for.
Yeah.
I can think of some of the folks that are in various groups now, young folks and folks that are in Charlottesville, and they're going to go on in like 20 years from now, even sooner than that. They ruin their lives. 20 years from now, people are going to start looking at them from 20 years before, seeing them in Charlottesville, and going to say, no, you can't go forward. But some of them by that point would have changed. Mm-hmm. And they would have tried. And their mission in life from that day is that they got to reconcile what they did back in the day with who they are in the future.
Okay.
And I don't have a problem helping somebody do that.
Of course.
But one of the things...
It's not your job.
One, it's not my job, although I make it my job from time to time, but it's not my job. They have to reconcile themselves. But here's the biggest problem. There's somebody behind them, somebody behind me that they hurt.
Exactly, yeah.
And they are going to have to figure out how to atone for that. And that's one of the things that One People's Project is famous for. We don't let them off the hook. I think one of the reasons why Daryle Davis catches some hell here and there is that it's because people feel that he might be letting a lot of these Klan members off the hook.
Yeah.
And
I had those feelings when I was watching that documentary.
It doesn't help when people use him as the template of how we should approach neo-Nazis. We should talk to them. We should be nice to them and all that. I would even defend Daryle Davis in the sense that I don't think that's not what he's trying to do. He's not just trying to be nice to them or just talk to them. He's trying to stop the racism that's going on. If you do not pay attention to that part of the mission, primarily, then you might be part of the problem.
Exactly, yeah. Because you are seeing that, like you see like these sort of like respectability like columns now in like major newspapers, like the liberal New York Times, like you have people like, oh, civil discourse with Nazis, you'd get further. We shouldn't
No,
punch
we don't.
Nazis. Yeah, exactly.
No, we don't. Telling them to go to hell is what gets us further.
And in fact, like on that, I want to share something, a video really quickly. This took place on July 28, 2018 in Fort Tryon Park, which is in the Washington Heights area here in New York City. Very diverse neighborhood, by the way. It's very a large Dominican population there. There's also like a large Orthodox Jewish population up there too. But there's a lot of different. It's very diverse. It's a lot of people of color up there. Identity Evropa, which is another white nationalist group, they did a march through Fort Tryon Park. Here's a brief video.
And the rocket's red glare, the most bursting in air, gave through to the night. What's your name, pal?
Don't touch me.
What's your name, pal?
Don't touch me.
I'm not gonna touch you. That's a weird name, though, huh? That Star Spangled Banner, yeah.
Don't touch me.
You're touching me! Look, he's touching me! Touch me! Touch me! Touch me! Woo! Brave! Touch me!
So yes, that was very openly. They were marching in Fort Tryon Park. That's a park that's very. The reason I'm riled up about this. I have spent a lot of time in that park. I really love that park. And so to see these Nazis marching through a place that I frequent quite often, and then of course, like, you know, you see that and you your brain starts to associate with like Nazis marching in the 1930s, it just makes you feel like, oh, they're here and we are now reliving that timeline again. Now, Identity Evropa, that's one of the groups that you have followed.
Right. I mean, they were, before Identity Europa, they were called the National Youth Front.
Yeah.
And they were an organization that was founded by a larger organization called the American Freedom Party, by members of the American Freedom Party, also formerly known as American Third Position out of California.
And who founded the American Freedom Party?
William Johnson,
Okay,
a longtime white supremacist activist out of California.
Right, okay.
So. And basically, they've had about 4 or 5 leaders since they started back in 2014.
Yeah.
And they had to change their name, and now they're calling themselves Identity Europa, so that's how everybody knows them.
Yeah.
The beauty about Identity Europa, however, is that, yeah, they can march, but we pretty much know every last member because they put themselves out there like that. We got pictures, we got videos, we got names.
Yeah.
The guy who was doing singing the national anthem is a guy named Ian Hoffman. He got arrested in Charlottesville during the Tiki Torch March. He got involved in some of the fisticuffs there, and he got snatched up for it.
Right. So I guess so he got arrested in Charlottesville about a year ago, and here's also what bugs me. So there was, in the Frontline documentary that I was talking about earlier, Emily Gorsinski, who's filming a lot of like the evening of the Tiki Torches, and she was getting attacked too, trying to like hold off, like facing off against like these right-wing groups. She talked about like how she felt real rage, but she noticed how happy everybody was. Like it was called a happy rage. So watching that video of these guys marching, and that one hipster sack of shit like you can touch me, you can touch me.
I think I know that character too. He's catching hell. So
oh yeah.
Oh no, Antifa's on him.
Oh good.
Antifa's on him. So
good. Yeah.
So he doesn't want us touching him, of course, but that's another story.
Yeah. So like, so like that's so two things about that. Like it's happy rage. Like even though like one of those guys, the guy you just mentioned, got arrested, like you would think that like that would deter the guy a little bit, but it seems like he's still like arrogantly like
Well, let him be happy. I mean, ignorance is bliss. So,
Right.
But here's the deal. That's the way they always play their game. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, they started as being the happy, joyful guys. I mean, calling themselves cartoonish names and things like that. So that's a thing that they do all the time. It's kind of like a defense mechanism for doing some of the most heinous crap known to man, of course.
So I guess my question is like, so is it just a performative? Is it just a hollow performative act?
Exactly.
Or you don't think like they're like feeling like real confidence of like, yeah, we got the guy in the White House. Is that
No. There is some of that, but it's fleeting, and they know that the pressure is on. How do you know that? That particular rally was done as a flash mob, incognito, without clandestine, without anybody knowing it was coming.
Knew about it.
Yeah, it's not like they was announcing, we're going to be in Washington Heights, because they wouldn't be laughing all that much if that happened.
Oh no, yeah, and there was like a rally after, like a vigil afterwards too.
I mean,
more people were there.
let them laugh. We have the last laugh because they can't do that with us knowing.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. So here's a fun thing for everyone who's aware of this story. So I walked through Fort Tryon Park on August 4th, just because I wanted to go visit. I was a little wary. I was like, I better look for like rocks and sticks and shit like that in case somebody's coming back to stir some shit up, So in Fort Tryon Park, the Black Israelites also congregate there. They don't bother anyone. They just literally like hang out in groups and they talk to each other, reading their Black Israelite Bible that they have, and so I actually went to one of them and I said like, hey, were you guys here last weekend? And they're like, we're here every weekend. I was like, okay, so did you not see the Identity Evropa people walking through here, the neo-Nazi, the neo-fascist group? And they were like, no, I didn't know that they were here. I was like, well, they walked in this area. And then they were like, I was like, yeah, they were carrying like a banner. They were walking through here, and they're like, oh, those guys, I thought they were just coming off a soccer game or something. And so, like, here's an interesting thing. Okay, this is funny. My dream would just be like that the black Israelites would recognize them immediately and pounce on them.
They won't do that.
They won't do that. But the funny thing is that the Identity Evropa people, the people who claim that they want America to be, they want to stop the invasion of people of color. They want like one race. America is for Western white people. They pass by a group that they would deem a scourge on America, didn't do shit. So that's kind of interesting.
No, they're not going to pull marching. Listen, if they were going to be clandestine in doing this march in the first place, the last thing that they want to do is pick a fight while they're there, because then everybody will come out.
But they were harassing people, though. Like
they were harassing people when they thought that they could get away with it. But when they didn't think, how long were they there? Think about it like this.
Yeah.
How long was Identity Evropa out there in Washington Heights? It wasn't like they spent an hour or two there. They were there for probably, I guess, at the most 20 minutes, and then they were gone.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. That's how it works with these groups. They're just basically, like you said, putting on a show. It's all a show, but you know what? We got better shows. We upstage them all the time. Now, in regards to the Israelites, you got to bear in mind something about groups like that. They are also separatists.
Yeah.
And more to the point, whenever I hear them speak their tenets are the same as Christian identities.
Oh, yeah.
They're Christian identity tenets. They're the same as Aryan nations.
Yeah.
So there is some sort of, if they were to talk to the Identity Evropa folks, they'll probably try to discuss how can they do this? How can we separate? So no, they're not going to pounce.
Yeah,
they're going to ask, okay, let's put this together, despite the fact that none of us really want either of them doing anything.
Yeah. Well, so I guess on that performativeness, and you mentioned like the Ku Klux Klan starting out as like this sort of like jovial boys club.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like Identity Evropa is playing. I looked at their website. Like they are playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Proud Boys
who would do that too.
And they like those folks, especially the founder Gavin McInnes and all those people. If you accuse them of being fascist, they're like, "Oh no, this is just this is like a silly thing that we're doing, and you're getting worked up, you libs."
Who cares what they say? The fact of the matter is that's what they are. They know that's what they are.
Yeah.
And if they try to say otherwise, all we got to do is point to their boy in Portland wearing a shirt that said Pinochet did nothing wrong. You guys are fascists. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so, but that's like an interesting. I think it's just something to be aware of, though, from a lot of these groups, like the sort of. There are these aesthetic choices that they're making, and it's not so much like that they're, it's sort of like they're putting on this like sort of lovable, jovial front, and so it is maybe like while like none of us have to buy into it. Obviously, like we know what they are, they're scum, but like I wonder how much like how do you prevent, and maybe you can't do this. We kind of addressed this already. Again, the typically white liberals, the typically white moderates who are like, okay, well, how do you keep the fact that these guys are dangerous? Just how do you keep that in people's minds?
I think really we are doing that. I don't think anybody has any notion that these folks aren't dangerous. We've seen what happens. One of the guys from Identity Evropa was shaking in Jeremy Christian's hand just a couple of weeks before he was stabbing people who were trying to protect women that he was harassing on a train for being Muslim.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that we know them for who they are. This isn't really for our benefit, but for their own.
Yeah.
I think they're more or less trying to muster up their crowd and their crew. And what happened in Charlottesville made them realize that shit is real.
Mm-hmm.
Made them realize that.
Okay.
Because right after Charlottesville, when people were getting killed and all that, there were folks saying, I got to get out of this group.
Yeah.
Even one person, there is a video of one of the guys at Charlottesville who took off his shirt, took off his white power shirt. I don't know what shirt he was wearing, but he says, look, I was just here to have some fun.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that also lends itself to something that's also important. We got a lot, and this goes back to the whole thing about redemption.
Yeah.
About redeeming these folks. We are, in fact, dealing with a lot of young people who have too much psychological damage than a little bit. I mean, and that's who we're dealing with here. That's what we're dealing with any kind of gang members that we see out there.
Sure.
And ultimately, that is something that we are going to have to address. Now, that doesn't get them off the hook. When they do wrong, they're going to pay for doing wrong.
Yeah.
But we do have to recognize the fact that a lot of these guys are catching hell in their private lives.
I guess like maybe, and this is maybe like my own shallow surface analysis, but like a lot of these guys, like that joke that the guy made, the Black Israelite guy, his observation, it was a joke to me, that these guys were like coming off a soccer game. Like, yeah, like the Identity Evropa people, like they look like a bunch of rich yuppies.
They are.
Like rich hipsters.
Many of them are. Many of them are. Many of them are not. I mean,
and the Proud Boys as well. Like they're all a bunch of rich hipster yuppies.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, but Gavin McInnes, come on. He was.
Yeah.
He's basically established hipsterism with Vice.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, in the 21st century, hipsters have been around for a while. That guy, like, basically, like, is a poser. He's like a
he is, and let's not make that clear. But even look at Gavin McInnes. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about somebody. I mean, people have accused him of being an alcoholic. I mean, you know that. And Matthew Heimbach from Traditionalist Worker Party, who was not only an alcoholic, see what kind of mess he did when he was. He
some weird affair with like his stepmom.
No, this is weird. So let me point this out and explain it. He was having an affair with his stepmother rather, who is married to the co-founder of the Traditionalist Worker Party, who was also the stepfather to his wife. His wife, Matt Heimbach's wife, was the daughter of Matt Parrott, the other co-founder.
Yes.
First wife. So he was having an affair with Matt Parrott's second wife.
Wow. Okay. Master race.
They better be all masturbating.
That's what I meant. No, I guess like so. Yeah, there are people like who have like kind of very complicated situations, but like, and again in this Frontline documentary, like there's this group like Rise Above movement in Orange County. Orange County's a nice place. The Identity Evropa people, like they seem like. There's been this narrative that's just been put out by the left often and by like a lot of liberals that like these are all like white working class people like who just come from broken homes. Some of them do, and of course like the broken like that part I do sympathize with actually, but like a lot of these guys they're well off. Like you grew up comfortably.
Richard Spencer grew up well off.
He grew up I grew up in the suburbs of Dallas myself. Richard Spencer, I didn't grow up in the same suburb that Richard Spencer did, but he grew up in Preston Hollow, which is like that stereotypical like gated community, rich neighborhood. Like that's where like that countless films and TV have made fun of, like that sort of stereotype. And so it's like, I guess like what I bristle at a little bit, and because I used to be somebody who's like, okay, you must have been motivated into your life of hate by some bad shit, you know?
Yeah.
Some of them have, certainly, like the Byron Widner story. Like a lot of bad stuff happened, a lot of abuse happened in his life. However, like a lot of people are very comfortable, and I don't know if it's just like that they couldn't like branch out from their fathers or something, or what they did, but like I don't like that. I guess like it's what's motivating these guys to do all this stuff? You don't need to do that stuff. Like
they grew up a certain way.
Is it just that
they grew up very, very privileged and entitled?
Yeah.
And for Richard Spencer, I think this was all just fun for him for a while. In fact, he stopped doing it because it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
He never really had to put in real work out there in life. So.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was just handed to him.
Yeah.
And so he really didn't know the reality of today's society. So he didn't need to know.
Yeah.
But when reality of today's society started creeping up, he decided to lash out with this kind of crap.
Yeah. Is it just is it sort of like that growing up like this? I mean, like, we know this, growing up like that, it can be kind of a hollow existence because like you said, like, everything's handed to you. You have like maybe like just, it's understood that you're going to be, you're not going to have to really struggle. And sort of like it's the ego maybe coming out and saying like, well, I should branch out. Okay, well.
Well, yeah, but then you take a look at those who had everything handed to them. Now you still, when you're talking about the folks that had everything handed to them, you can't still be talking about psychological damage.
Yeah.
There is a need
True.
for belonging.
Yeah.
All of us have it.
Yeah.
we want our lives worth a damn. We want a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And I think with a lot of these cats, the wrong people have given them that purpose. Mm-hmm. When I said that Pat Buchanan was the well from which a lot of this sprung, you're talking about, in the case of Pat Buchanan, somebody that grew up with racism as the foundation of the society he grew up in.
Yeah.
And ever since the Civil Rights Movement, he has been trying his damnedest to bring it back. Along comes these young folks who feel that they need to do something to make their lives worth a damn. They've figured out some sort of an enemy, or they were told an enemy by somebody, and they gravitated in that direction.
Right.
One of the things that really drives me up the wall right now is this whole incel thing.
Okay.
Involuntary celibate.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a bunch of and this speaks to the Proud Boys. They call themselves Western chauvinists.
Yeah.
They basically believe that women have a position in life that keeps them subservient.
Right.
And basically, they're doing everything they can to make sure that women remain subservient, do not work. They just basically serve their master or whatever. And when I see the chats and when I see a lot of these incels, so-called incels, talk, they'll tell you flat out they hate women.
Yeah.
They're not gay or anything like that. They just hate women.
Yeah.
And they kill women too. And that's the other
course.
thing that comes into play. I mean, we have Elliot Rodger that's done that. And I gotta tell you, I mean, you can recognize the psychological damage going on, but when it gets to that, I really get pissed off about the fact that we actually started, there's an actual political movement for guys who can't get laid. Now it gets really stupid.